Hello, so today I'm going to be talking about my opinion of society in general. Now this video may be very controversial to a lot of people, especially liberals, but it will probably even be controversial to a lot of anarcho-capitalists or voluntarists, free marketers, libertarians, etc. So my ultimate overall view of society is that society in and of itself is bad. I know you're going to say like what? Well, society is bad, but it is. You know, this whole concept we're taught in school that we need to, quote, build up society is just something to play with our emotions. You know, it's just something to, you know, make us, you know, feel good about ourselves or what we're doing and stuff like that. There's not actually any, you know, real value to, quote, building society, and you'll soon find out that, it is, society basically is a control system. Now, there's a difference between free market and society. Now, society will continue to exist within a truly free market without the state. However, over time, I feel as though our concept of society, if we did not have a state, would go away. And here's why. First of all, the difference between, quote, living together and living in society. Now, there's a huge difference between living together and living in society, and that living together is good, living in society is bad. And the difference pretty much is that pretty much the same between the difference of a forest and a garden. I don't know how to put this, but yeah. Wait, let me go back. So the difference between living together and living in society is basically like the difference between a forest and a garden. Nobody waters a forest, and yet it still grows a lot higher than the garden. And the only person who benefits off the garden is the gardener. You know, it's almost like liberalism, like collectivism, but it goes much deeper than that even, because even free marketers can say, oh, we have free market for the purpose of building society. See, it turns back around and it goes to that collective thing, you know. You see, a lot of conservatives, they're in favor of building their empire, they're in favor of building society, and yet, you know, they seem to like smaller government and less government involvement, you know, and you see that with taxation. It's all about, you know, people wanting to uplift this imaginary concept of society, just like, you know, this state is an imaginary concept. Now, this is really hard to explain, especially, you know, to other free marketers who don't understand, but once we eliminate the view of society, we see that it's all about the individuals. And we focus more on individuals than there actually being a society or the society existence. You know, look at the trees, not the forest. You see what I'm saying? Because ultimately, we all benefit each other, you know. You see a lot of people, you know, especially in schools, they'll encourage you to give to the poor and go to the best college and get the best grades so you can, quote, improve society. And when they say, you know, give to the poor, you think, well, you're not benefiting society, you're benefiting a poor man. You know, you're benefiting your brother in humanity, or your sister, or whatever. Or when you make a trade with someone, when somebody gives you a form of currency in exchange for one of your goods, or vice versa, you two are both benefiting each other. You know, society has nothing to do with it at all. It's just you and some other person. And yes, I would say that, although my view may sound selfish, I believe that looking at society as opposed to individuals and ending, quote, what we call society, is actually more selfish. You know, I think that, you know, society is more selfish than the strict standard of individualism, because when you give to a poor, it's like you're doing it to improve your own society, your own, you know, standard of living, to make everyone better so that they can improve this imaginary concept called society, because they always tell you to build society in school when you're young, and that they never even tell you what you're building, you know. So, yeah, it's ultimately the only person who benefits is, you know, the authority figures, the people who are in charge, in control. They're the ones that benefit off of society, no one else, you know. It's just like a bobber wanting to benefit off of the fishing trip. You know, the only person who's benefiting off all the fish you catch is the fisherman, the guy sitting in the boat. And it's like, you know, say you live on a farm, and there's a cow on the farm. Now, she constantly is producing milk for the good of the farm, right? She wants to improve the farm so that, you know, the farmers can buy better equipment and stuff like that. But what she doesn't realize is that she's only benefiting the farmer. Once she's free of the farm, she no longer sees the need to produce tons and tons of milk because there is no farmer anymore, and she realizes, oh, you know, it's freedom. But she still realizes, oh, I can still produce, you know, some milk because I have a family, I have children, and so forth, and my neighbors have children, but I don't need to improve a farm anymore, and that's pretty much what society is like. You know, in society, you still maybe want to make money in the free market, and if you want to, you can still earn billions of dollars and be rich. That's fine, I don't have a problem with that, go ahead. But you realize there's not really so much point to strive to be successful anymore, because the only reason why they're telling you to do that is because the people on top of society want to benefit off of it. That's basically what school is about. You know, when you're born, nobody wants to do homework, nobody wants to follow the system, but they continue pushing it down your throat, and then you get into high school and you take all the hard classes, you take all the honors and all the AP classes, and you do nothing but homework all the time, and then you graduate, and let's assume that everything goes your way and you become successful and you go to the best college, even though normally you don't. Normally people who go to the best colleges don't make it anyway, but let's say you do, and you're making money. First of all, that's not naturally how you were. You were conditioned into doing that. And second of all, they only wanted you to do that so that they could make money off of your taxes. And if you didn't become successful, well, you're in huge student loan debt, so the Federal Reserve banking system can still make money off you anyway. You know, it's basically a system. It makes shrubs want to grow up to be trees. You know, that's not everyone's thing. I'm totally cool with the free market and everything, but I don't think that everyone needs to be successful, and I don't think that success is an important thing. I think it's a nice thing and an optional thing, but I don't think it's what really matters. You know, maybe like, you know, voluntarism matters as long as you don't use force. But, you know, that's another thing, and this whole idea started when, basically, you know, I met people who were all doing hard things, all working hardest in school, because obviously, you know, doing your homework in school now will later translate into doing paying taxes. It all starts from, like, Prussian education system, and how it's basically just meant to turn us into obedient workers and soldiers and so on. But I realized that, you know, the homework they're doing now will later just translate into taxes for them later when they grow up. You know, it's just the same thing. They're being conditioned, and they're being pressured to build a, quote, society that doesn't even exist. You know, and it's just like, what am I supposed to think? It's like, damn, what was I going to say? Oh, well. Here's another way of putting it in religion. So many churches convince their churchgoers to build up their communities and building society and hold hand on hand. We can do it. We can make our community a better place. Of course, instead of making each other a better place. You know, and so many churches convince you to do that, and I think that that's, you know, what it says in the Bible, and really it's not. First of all, never once does the Bible say anything about, or as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, the Bible doesn't say anything about building society. You know, if you do something good, you do a good deed, it'll say you're doing good for God, or you're doing good for your brother, or your sister. It doesn't say anything about doing good for a community or doing good for society. So, you know, get that idea out of your head. And second of all, you go to, in the very beginning, we'll start from earliest to latest, we'll see that Cain, built the first city. Now, I don't have a problem with building cities, by the way, in general. I'm just saying in this context, Cain builds the first city, and Cain is evil, and he has hatred in his heart, and hatred is the earliest and purest form of tyranny. Okay, let's move on. This is where we get our whole building up concept from, when they wanted all the people to come together and hold hands and build up this tower, even though God said no, spread out into the world, be fruitful and multiply. They all came together and they tried to, quote, build up this tower, build up their community. You know, that's basically what these churches are preaching, is like Tower of Babel theology, and it's like, no. You know, God struck a lightning bolt or something, and they all spoke different languages, and they split up. Okay, moving further on, we have, Satan takes Jesus to the top of a mountain, and he says, bow down and worship me, and all the nations can be yours. Again, the whole idea of society is from, you know, the devil. And so, you know, this is just the thing. It's like, it's trying to tell you that society and people try to tell you society and success and building things up is so important. It's not. You know, and the Bible constantly says, don't be like the world, don't be like the world. Yet they turn around and preach this hypocritical philosophy that, you know, you have to build everything up. And it's like, how can you talk about building a society, how can you talk about being successful as so important, which I don't have a problem with success, like I said, but how can you talk about success being so important when you worship a man who lived in the desert, you know, who fasted in the sand? It doesn't add up, you know. And so that's, you know, I'd say too, another point is people view God as like, you know, some dictator in the sky, and, you know, we're viewing, you know, we're trying to build up heaven and all that, and it's like, you know, that's kind of faulty. You know, it says in the Bible that God is omnipresent, so God is everywhere. You know, he's not just some dictator in the sky. You know, that's something, you know, governments put in to try and justify their means and what they do, because religion was used to control people, and now science is used to control people. It's the same thing. So, you mean, yeah, that's pretty much, I'd like to conclude this video as saying, you know, success is perfectly acceptable, and there's nothing wrong with it, and when we do things to, quote, as some people would say, build society, it's actually better to improve humanity and improve each other and our brothers and sisters, you know, and the people around us, and to just not even worry at all about building this imaginary concept called society, which is imaginary just like the state. You know, you can live in, you know, crappy ghetto huts if you want, and if that's how everyone wants to live, that's how they want to live. It's not important that you make it all shiny and sparkly and golden, or whatever their, you know, ear-tickling philosophy propaganda is, that's just meant to make things nicer for the kings. You know, that's pretty much it. You know, they create this fear of the ghetto when they want to build society. So yeah, you know, to conclude, the free market's good, trading is good, improving humanity is good, living together is good, living in society and improving society, not so much. Well, auf Wiedersehen.